Apple is obviously an absolutely massive corporation, and so the benefits that they get hypothetically from any form of tax avoidance or tax cuts can also be potentially quite massive. Now this week, because of a combination of both the release of the Paradise Papers, which we've reported on earlier this week, and the work of TYT Investigates, we've got some ways that Apple is currently bending the rules to save themselves absolutely tremendous amounts of money without those savings apparently ever being passed on to either America in general or to people like you in particular. Some might call this a con job, if you think that. Okay, so let's jump into this. Now, you might have heard in the news over the past couple of days that Apple got in a lot of trouble because they had been harboring a lot of their money in Ireland, which had much more favorable tax rates. So back in 2014, the European Union investigated Apple's activities a year after the US didn't do too much about it, and ordered them to pay a significant amount of money, $14.5 billion in back taxes. So based on the documents leaked in the Paradise Papers, Apple apparently asked the Bermuda-based law firm Appleby, the core of these papers, what different offshore jurisdictions have to offer. When Ireland changed its tax laws in 2015, the year after those fines, it gave companies operating out of the country, like Apple, the right to continue their arrangements until December 2020. That gave Apple enough time to begin processing the changes in residency of its two biggest subsidiaries that were in Ireland at that time to Jersey, an island, which had eliminated corporate taxes with a few exceptions back in 2008. Wow, that sounds like a great situation there. Now, Apple has said that 70% of its profits come from outside the US, which is plausible. They sell phones all over the place and other things. Yet its foreign tax rate typically falls between 2 to 5%. In the US, it would have been significantly higher until the Republicans get done devastating the US taxes. So in the current situation, they're saving absolutely tons of money. Senator John McCain at one point said that by sheer size and scale, it's among America's largest tax avoiders. And that's, I don't believe, a reputation that they really hold. I mean, generally people have pretty favorable views of this company, other than the fact that there's the obsolescence of their technology as they update it. But that's the current situation. Now we've got this potential tax cut situation coming up. And the proposed tax cuts would reduce the corporate rate on domestic profits to 20%. Now obviously it's higher now, it's 35%, but even under the current situation, their effective tax rate was scarcely higher than it would be with the change. And since the loopholes aren't being taken away, the various forms of tax avoidance aren't being taken away domestically, that is gonna drop even more. Now, reduced rates on repatriated earnings, this is earnings abroad that then come back, would be even lower. That's at a 12% rate. And right now, with over $260 billion in cash, the vast majority of it overseas, this tax break would save them $60 billion. And with those sorts of savings potentially coming to them, you might understand why this year alone they've spent $5 million lobbying Congress on taxes. Last year they spent almost as much. This year is not even done yet. And so that is an absolutely huge situation. So we have a little bit more coming out of TYT Investigates.
That's good news though, because we're all leaving TYT. We're gonna get jobs at Apple.
Not after this story, we're not.
They're getting $60 billion just in repatriation money, and also other tax cuts that are gonna come with this bill that they're hell-bent on pushing through. Yeah. Everybody gets six-figure jobs, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, or they'll pass along the savings to the consumer with your
absolutely.
iPhone.
Yeah. How much do those new phones cost? Over $1,000. They're really good.
I heard the new iPhone 10 with its glitches, and then I heard there's something with the typing thing people have an issue with. It's getting question marks with square around.
Well, you can't put a capital I think. But if we can get that corporate tax rate down, I think we can get the I back.
If you can figure it out, you get a job, 6 figures minimum at Apple. That's what they're promising everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I have nothing against their product. I have an Apple laptop I use here. I have a PC at home that I built, but I have a Mac here. They're perfectly good products.
Well, that's why they're the world's most valuable company, because we all have their stuff.
But we do have to make sure that they actually pay their fair share, and I don't know that they're actually doing that. Now, look, in the link down below, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can read the TYT Investigates article about this, which has a ton of details. It's very well put together, and even in that story, they acknowledge that Apple is steadily growing in terms of how many employees it has, which is perfectly fine, and it will continue to invest domestically and abroad if there's demand for it. But the problem is that in this lobbying and in the conversations we always have about corporations and their potential activities in the US, there's always this myth that if we simply shower them with more money, then that will magically create jobs. But anyone who's been through even a high school level economics class knows that that's not the way it works. And that's even if you don't know that major corporations in the US are sitting on huge piles of cash already that they're not investing with. And the reason is that you don't create new jobs just because you got money burning a hole in your pocket. You do it when creating the jobs is necessary to sell more of your products that there is a demand for. The extra money that we shower on you has absolutely nothing to do with it. And companies like Apple and companies that are even worse in some aspects, they want you to believe these myths that if only we enrich them, they will enrich us in turn. The second part never happens, but the first cyclically does in US history, constantly.
I mean, they're nice guys. They love America. So then they'll give it right back in many different ways, obviously. Again, I mean, it has to be based in only going for your side. Like that's if they keep lying to us and telling people, hey, how about those the massive number of jobs that you got the last time this happened, but then complain that about job numbers and unemployment rates and look at this welfare system and look at you people want your handouts. Which one is it? Yeah. Is it being showered amongst everybody for the past 20 years? Or has it been so horrible every time only when Clinton and Obama were in office? Which one is it? It can't be both, but you can go with this lack of logic as long as your team is winning.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the word handouts. These are corporate handouts. This is corporate welfare that is being instituted in the United States of America. And Tim Cook, who is the CEO of Apple, he met with Trump as soon as he became president. He started right away lobbying. I mean, these guys are concerned with their bottom line. And John so perfectly described, these companies only care about the bottom line. They're not in the business of employing people unless it helps their bottom line. Yeah. So this is absolute corporate welfare, and they're about to, I mean, really blow the fence open on corporate welfare if this tax cut goes through.
Definitely, yeah, one of their biggest priorities.
Help us build independent media. Become a member of the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.